Death is unforgiving. It can either come as a slowly awaiting fate, or as an abrupt disruption to life. Death is also indiscriminate. It can just about happen to anyone. But what if you can see death before it happens? Of course, you would just try to do something about it. But what if it was unavoidable? There's no escaping it. You would just have to deal with it and accept it as the natural course of life. But what if somebody was responsible for it happening? What will you do then? And how far will you go for it? Welcome to the August Hail, and today we're going to be taking a look at Sakuranomori Dreamers. Sakuranomori Dreamers features Shinji Fukigami, who, scarred after a life-changing tragedy, gained the ability to see abhorrent monsters called bodaches. These monsters are attracted to the town of Sakuranomori, the site of many incidents of disappearing people and serial murders. With Shinji's power to see these monsters, he meets comrades who specializes in the extermination of bodaches, the members of the Sakuranomori Dreamers, in the hopes to carry out his revenge. What immediately sticks out to me is that Sakuranomori Dreamers' strongest element is its strong production and art design. Immediately upon landing onto the title page, you are greeted with an ominous but gentle piece. A wonderful piece of music that sets the tone for the whole work. The most prevalent tracks are the calm, somber, melodic tones that play during the visual novel's troubled moments, almost to a relaxing extent, to which is then juxtaposed by the heavy metal in the action scenes. The sound effects are also extremely striking. Lots of effort was put into selling scenes. There's a moment where the screen fades to black and you can hear the haunting, sinister laughter coming from the side, which is accompanied by pulsing heartbeats. And then the jump scare hits you moments later. In addition to the well-detailed monster designs, there are graphic horror CGs. These special and background CGs are designed with the creative use of filters that, when coupled with the sound effects and backing tracks, creates an unnerving and unsettling feeling and atmosphere. At least visually. You see, the production put into the direction is really well done. My problem is the actual villains themselves. The villains are clear psychopaths, but they come across as ridiculous and laughably silly, like some B-film horror movie, and it really tests your suspension of disbelief as you get closer to the ending. It also doesn't help that the visual novel introduces them villain of the week style, with no deeper purpose other than to just be really creepy. The latter villains are better in execution, but the beginning villains feels like throwaway fodder just to get to the good stuff. Even when trying to track down soul-possessing monsters and serial killers, we still have time to go to school and go to the beach. And with that, let's introduce our main heroines tackling these murders. We have Kureha, a straightforward but oblivious girl who started the Sakuranomori Dreamers. Mahoro, a kind and refined girl working as our eye-in-the-sky support for the team. Mifuyu, the serious but tsundere artist in the group. Hatsune, a shy and innocent childhood friend. And Madoka, the happy-go-lucky next-door neighbor who acts as our crutch in the worst of time and our main support. What I can tell is that the story clearly wants to tell its nightmarish narrative about our main character and have him suffer, but it also wants to show off the heroines as well. This is accomplished by leaving character development for the cast at the very end. At least that's what I think happens here. During the main story, any details and backstories for the main heroines are kept very minimal, with the exception of one character, and the heroine stories are told at the very end. Now this is very understandable in terms of separating content, but man, the slice of life dialogue between the couples and even with the cast, I just found so dull. But on the bright side, all the good plot is at the end of the visual novel. I couldn't also help noticing that sometimes the personalities of the heroines are very one note. What I can tell you is that Kureha wears a kimono, and Mifuyu wears a lab coat. That's it. In order to choose the heroines for the endgame, during the main story, the visual novel presents you with choices for each of the heroines. Standard fare, just choose the heroines that you want. For the route progression, I went with Hatsune, Mahoro, Mifuyu, and Kureha. Hatsune has the absolute worst luck as someone hopelessly in love. With Hatsune spending years pining over the main character and her love rivals increasing, she's had a difficult time, and her route concludes her long, hard-fought struggle, ending with the two of them going at it like rabbits. Her route is mostly fluff, but what is significant is the deep dive of a side character I didn't expect to get coverage. It's intriguing because it's a whole new perspective on Shinji's trauma and reinforces the central theme of moving forward. That said, I am astounded that while this side character is going through a relapse of trauma, Shinji is feeding Hatsune his sandwich. Mahoro is a kind and gentle individual, and her main hangover is overcoming the death of her caring little brother. This should have had a bigger impact, but the introduction of her brother's death was given through a throwaway line in the main story. It's okay though, his brother is in a better place when he gets reincarnated into an isekai. Now fluff is nice and all, but for Mifuyu, her route actually remembers that this is a horror visual novel. Mifuyu's story helps cover up some loose ends regarding a little plot point and fits the original tone of the visual novel. It goes back and explores more nightmarish elements while also serving to go deeper into Mifuyu's internal conflicts. It's what I would ideally want out of a heroine route for Sakuranomori Dreamers, which I got, along with knowing Mifuyu's sniffing fetish.
あら、本当よ。いや、今リシ。
Kureha's route should be the last route of the heroines you should take due to how the main narrative culminates here. We are introduced to more elements of uneasiness as the chapter becomes an instance of a murder mystery before finally unraveling leftover motives and secrets from the main story. It's the true ending essentially, and Kureha's route acts as the main stage for this to take place. But she's never the main actor herself. Again, she only provides the fluff. And the split tone is even more apparent when they have sex, when there's a murderer on the loose. In conclusion, Sakuranomori Dreamers is a tightly focused story on Shinji overcoming his past trauma. The visual and music direction aids in these efforts, bringing a deeply haunting atmosphere accompanied with its gruesome monster designs. The visual novel explores lots of different narratives about overcoming grief, but when the narrative isn't concentrated on Shinji and its horror aspects, other side stories and heroine characters are much weaker in comparison, due to their big departure from the show's main tone and subpar slice-of-life writing. But despite this, I would recommend this visual novel purely for Shinji's journey. As the story proceeds chapter by chapter, he slowly recognizes the need to move on from his past, which echoes wonderfully by this phrase, "Only the dead stay in one place. The living must continue to move forward." Subscribe if you liked the video and want to see more. Check back every week for new content. For more of my thoughts on the most up-to-date news on videos, you can find me on Twitter at TheAugustHale. Check out some of my other anime visual novel reviews on my channel playlist. Links are in the description down below. That's it for today. I'll see you guys later next time.